Hello, my name is Jack. I'm the co-founder of Breaking and Entering, and this is the Breaking and Entering BrandSide podcast. I had the chance to sit down with Kate Kenner Archibald. She's the chief marketing officer over at Hudson, which is a platform that is redefining how people look at social media and marketing really at a brand. So that platform and that tool is really designed to use and leverage analytics for social media posting and marketing. It can predict when a post is going to do well. It can increase engagement, which is always the name of the game. Kate has an incredible career path. She started in the beauty industry for 14 years. She was at Estee Lauder, and during that time kind of saw that technology was at the forefront and should be kind of the driver of decision making in marketing. And from that experience and being the technology lead at Estee Lauder, she pivoted and joined Hudson in 2021. And from then on, she's been able to grow the business and has gained some incredible insights and has demystified social media management for countless number of brands. I'm really excited for people to check out this episode. It was a really fun conversation. We were in person at the Havas office in New York. So thank you to them for having us. It's slightly better conditions than our 500 square foot apartment, but check it out. And without further ado, kick it, Mikey.
This is done. I don't need to do anything.
All right, we're good.
Okay.
Okay,
All
very
right,
cool.
let's go. Okay.
Welcome.
The first guest to make you do that.
Thank you for the intro music. We are here with Kate Kenner Archibald, Breaking and Entering BrandSide podcast. Kate, welcome to the show. We were just talking. You're a big Swiftie.
I am.
And you have big news.
My big news is I'm going to see her in New Orleans on Sunday with my mother and my daughter.
Wow.
3 generations of Swifties are really excited to take New Orleans and Taylor Swift by storm.
New Orleans is not ready for the 3 generations. So is it one of those things like, are you going to create a poster? There's got to be something involved here where it's like, Taylor, like 3 generations of Swifties.
I don't think our seats are good enough that she would actually be able to see it.
Hey, it's tough. It's hard to get those tickets.
Yeah.
They're, did you do pre-sale or?
We did a broker. We did not do pre-sale.
Okay, broker.
We just booked them over the summer.
Wow.
Because my mother, we can edit this out. My mother decided.
No, absolutely not.
Decided to, that life is short. She's not getting any younger.
Right.
And she loves Taylor Swift and wanted to experience it with her daughter and granddaughter.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's the American dream.
Yeah.
Go
literally.
see T Swift, literally. Amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming. We're at the Havas, New York office. Thank you to them for letting us use the studio. Slightly better accommodations than our 1-bedroom apartment, which I would never subject you to, by the way. So yes, quick shout out to me for that. I'd love to talk about your story, all of that. But right now, you are the chief marketing officer of Hudson. So what does that mean?
Absolutely. So Hudson is a social media management software. So we help brands of all sizes, big, small, anywhere in between, manage all of their social content, syndicate it across all channels globally. But beyond that, and kind of what really makes us special is our AI. So we've had AI since 2016 in the platform. And so it's really funny. I actually came on as a former customer. So I worked at Estee Lauder companies for 14 years. And when I was on the customer side and I was using this platform, I saw the use of AI and I was like, this is amazing. And this is actually a competitive advantage for brands. And that's really like how I looked at Hudson is, there's a lot of social media management platforms that can do many different things and provide great data analytics, which we can too. But to upfront know through AI what content is going to perform well before you post it, to me was a game changer, right? It created efficiency of time, of choice, but it also created efficiency of money, right? So we would go to social photo shoots and like in real time know which content was going to perform, because we would literally just like feed all of the assets in real time into our platform and then show the photographer and then like adjust in real time.
Wow.
Yeah. So um, what does it entail from a day-to-day standpoint? Obviously helping raise awareness of who we are and what we do, and really why we're different. But also it's managing a great team of 21 people around the world, and really trying to make sure that we are maximizing our story and making sure that people know that we can really help them.
Yeah. I mean, we saw you live in action at Adweek. You're up there with a representative from Meta, from United Airlines, which is a client, right?
Mhm.
United is a client.
Yes.
So I feel like is it tough to like convince people that like this works, this AI, it's predictive, or since the fact you're able to do it in real time and be like, this is going to work, was there a little bit of a barrier there, especially if you were early to the scene on it with AI?
Really, it depends on the brand. I would say a
Yeah.
lot of, right. So, and again, I came from beauty. I worked at Tom Ford. I worked at Estee Lauder. I worked at Bobbi Brown, and each brand is very different in the way they look at creative. And
Right.
so, if you take a Tom Ford, for example, and I was in charge of, the photo shoots and an incredible experience. And would the creative director always care about what the AI said? Probably not.
Mhm.
But if we were choosing between 5 stills,
Yeah.
we would then have the option to go with the one that the AI was suggesting. So, or 5 videos, doesn't matter what type of content type it is, but versus maybe at Bobbi, it might have dictated more of like the type of content we would be shooting, right? So it depends. Do we have trouble convincing people? No, I think customers like know what it is. Once they see it, they get it, and they see how it can impact them. We actually see a 66% increase in engagement rate if you use the suggested content.
Yeah.
So like the proof is in the pudding. Some brands won't post anything without using our AI.
Yeah.
So I'd say for newer customers, they're like a little like taken aback about the capability, and it does take time to get used to it. But no, at this point it doesn't. And honestly, since ChatGPT launched,
Right.
it really has made that conversation so much easier, where even when I came on 3 years ago and we would talk about AI, people just didn't necessarily always care. Now they're like, okay, we get it and we care.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so where do you stand on in terms of like decision making, where it's, are you going all in, all the decisions that you make at like the C-suite level driven by analytics purely? Or because I feel like to me, there's like a spectrum. There's like an old school, very old school type person that might take all of the data out of it and make the decision very human and like just go with their gut kind of thing. And then there's also, you could, trust analytics completely and let that drive all your decisions. Where do you think you stand when it comes to decision making and using analytics?
I think somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I think marketing is an art and a science.
Right.
And anyone who makes it too much of an art, you're one day gonna I think hit a wall, right? It's challenging because like you can only be so creative and so fun and so cool for so long, right? And so I'll give like the example of like Burberry, right? You had an incredible creative director for their years, celebrated, and then eventually, he left. And so for good reason, I think that you need both. And I think conversely, if you just go with the data side and you don't have a little bit of the, Taylor Swift magic or sparkle.
Now you're speaking my language.
You're missing out. So
Yeah.
I think you really need to be inspired by your customer.
Right.
I think you need to know what's happening in culture, which is not a science. And I think, to me, I always say like Instagram is all about inspiration and TikTok is all about culture.
Okay.
I think if you don't know what's happening in culture, if you don't know what's happening on TikTok, you're missing out. And so that to me is like kind of where the art comes in.
Okay. That's interesting. So I asked the question about like leadership style and analytics, all that. Was there a time when you were growing up where you like always thinking, oh, I'm going to be destined for this, you know, C-suite role? Marketing was always your jam, or kind of take me back to like Kate growing up. And Kate, did Kate always think that you would be in the C-suite as a business exec?
I mean, I think it was always a hope. Yeah. So I, when I graduated college, or even before that, I had the good fortune of growing up in New York City, and I was surrounded by a lot of people in marketing or in fashion and beauty. And so my mom actually started in beauty at Revlon many, many years ago. And so I really grew up with a lot of people in that industry. So it was like very familiar to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You grew up in New York City?
I did.
Like in...
Not far from here.
Whoa, okay. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Greenwich Village.
Wow. So you're like, we see people walking around, like a person that grew up in New York City is inherently like a million times cooler than we grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and it's like our friends that grew up in the city, those they're cooler. They just are. I'm sure you feel the same.
I'll agree to agree.
Yeah. Sorry. So you're growing up, your mother working.
My mom worked for a bit in beauty. Then she ended up becoming a doctor later on. But I think I was really surrounded by it. And to me, it was familiar and always something really interesting and inspiring. And I always loved sort of this like connection to culture. Right. And I think my late father was also very involved in like really wanting me to have a career. At a very young age, he gave me books about like, women in the C-suite or female CEOs. And so I think between, the good luck of living in New York, where a lot of these companies exist, the ability to live at home for quite some time and discover the right place to work, and sort of this leadership from my parents to help me know my potential, I think was really important.
Interesting. So you're acting on the potential. Let's talk about how you kind of broke into whatever industry.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming college and then start applying for jobs. Is that right?
Yeah. So I graduated from Emory University in 2007. I moved home. And I think the first thought I had was I just want to work for a company that I know they're really smart people and in an industry that I respect. So I, was interviewing at Ralph Lauren. I was interviewing at Estee Lauder.
What was your major? What did you graduate with?
A major in economics and a minor in French.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool. Are you still able to speak French?
I mean, depends who you ask.
Was that helpful for like being in that beauty industry?
It definitely does not hurt for beauty. I mean, given like LVMH, L'Oreal, or French-based companies, I didn't work for one of them, but the industry does have a lot of French influence. And the French market is huge, so it really has never held me back. Would I tell my kids you must learn French? Unclear.
TBD.
TBD.
I took Spanish in high school.
That's a lot more useful.
Which I don't know. I actually don't know that much anymore, but sometimes I can like hear other people speak it and I can catch a few words. So if someone ever assumed that I didn't know Spanish and they were talking about me, I might be able to pick up a thing or two. Yeah. That's all I think about it for. Despite. It was
really helpful when the French team came into town and they didn't know that I spoke French.
Oh. Is that real?
Yeah, it was real. But yeah, no, it was great. So I think I really just wanted to work at, again, like a blue chip company.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a phrase people use anymore, but ages significantly. So it's like a really a good, strong company that is stable, has a dividend, or not in the case of Ralph Lauren. But so I was interviewing, again, LVMH, Ralph Lauren, Estee Lauder, and then I shared earlier, I actually was interviewing at Carrot Media. I got my first job offer from there, but I kind of like felt in my gut, like I was like, not sure this is really what I want.
And Carrot Media is a advertising?
Yes.
Advertising agency. That was your first
That was my first job offer.
Okay.
Not my first job. No offense to Care Media. It was in the barter department where like literally Philips light bulb would pay you in light bulbs and you'd like resell the light bulbs to someone else. And so
That's wild.
it was wild. So I kind of just like felt in my gut, I'm like not sure this is my future of bartering light bulbs. But it gave me confidence in future interviews. And I eventually got a job at Estee Lauder. And the timing is actually really important. I remember starting mid-August 2007. It was right before 2008.
Oh, man.
Things started. You could tell things were already falling apart. They weren't hiring. Ralph Lauren wasn't hiring. And so I was incredibly fortunate to get the job when I did. And so I ended up working on the Estee Lauder brand, working for the head of North America marketing.
Wow.
So her assistant.
Okay. So that's kind of the way you worked up.
Yeah.
And you stayed at Estee Lauder for how long?
14 years.
Wow. So so did you kind of develop this kind of personal brand around being the technology person and using technology with marketing? I guess that's one part of it. And then the other part is, how do you continue to stay up to date on like tech trends and everything that's going on in that world, especially over the course of a 14-year career?
Yeah, I would say, I think it eventually became part of my own personal ethos was how do you leverage technology just to make yourself, smarter, better, faster, as a marketer, right? And that's kind of like my ultimate goal is like, how do you maximize technology to make you better? And so I think I'll get in trouble for telling the story. I, early on in my career, okay, so again, aging myself, but like the internet was just coming out, right? E-commerce was just starting. And I was like, why don't we have a website? And I'm like a little assistant. No one cares who I am. Like, why do we have a website? Why don't we have, eventually an Instagram or a Pinterest? And so I remember I raised my hand and I was like, I'd love to like do research of how we could like help make this happen. And so I eventually created a mess because I was like asking all these questions and it highlighted that being ahead of the curve and knowing how to leverage technology is so important. And the person who I worked with at the time, we still speak and we talk about kind of this like situation still to this day. But after that sort of happened and I more or less like uncovered a few challenges within the organization, which they were ultimately dealing with. And Estee Lauder now is incredibly sophisticated when it comes to e-commerce. I eventually moved to the corporate marketing side where I was able to help brands manage all their social channels and really be like the representative between us and the partners. So with Facebook at the time, now Meta, Pinterest, Instagram before they were acquired by Facebook, and then all the technology partners. So this kind of comes full circle to me is this job. I actually brought on the first content management system, social content management system, which was Buddy Media at the time, and later acquired by Salesforce and was the Salesforce Social Cloud, onto Estee Lauder.
And so when was this?
This was about 12 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So I brought that on with my team 12 years ago and rolled it out. And now in turn, I'm kind of like working in their the new partner.
Okay. So it's come full circle.
Yeah.
Wow. That's super interesting. And then along the way, were you ever working with did creative agencies or like digital agencies kind of come into that fold? Because we have a lot of people, this one's for you, advertising people, that listen. And so I'm wondering, was that something that was also kind of occurring? Was that a partner that you all would work with ever?
Yes and no. So creative agency, I did, while I was at Tom Ford, I did work with one creative production partner, but then everything else we really did in-house.
And that's super interesting. So you're able to kind of build that up. And especially you think about managing social content at that point, it sounds like you were kind of some of the first that were doing that, or at least within your company and the corporate marketing world.
Yeah, I give the Bobbi Brown brand a lot of credit. They had a social studio way before a lot of brands did. And, their ethos is all about teaching and education. And so when I joined there, I was really impressed by how they were so able to quickly turn around content in a very strategic manner.
Yeah, I believe it. So that now fast forward and now you're on the other end. You're helping kind of, because you've been on that side. So you know what it's like on the customer side to be able to, take social and use it to build business. In terms of AI, and like that's the most buzzword of all time. Like, first off, are you sick of talking about it?
Never. No. I mean, I'm not sick of talking about it because I think it's so applicable to your day-to-day life. Like I was sick of hearing about, not talking about like Web3, right? I was like, I don't
know what that is.
I don't
I
understand
still don't
it,
know what
and
Web3 is.
I agree. But like with AI, like what I like about it, I think I'm a very like practical person. Like I like with AI, it's really practical.
Right.
Right. And I'll give an example. Like yesterday, something that would have taken someone on my team a day to do took 10 minutes because they literally just like uploaded a spreadsheet to ChatGPT and it like literally did it for them. So, I think we're just scratching the surface of how AI is helping create massive efficiency for brands. I'll quote Scott Galloway, one of my favorite.
Gina loves Scott Galloway.
Yeah, I think AI, I agree with him. Like AI is not going to take your job. It's people who know how to use AI will take your job. And like, that kind of really that theory sort of like guided my career journey, which was like, I want to always be where I feel like the puck is going. And to me, the future CMO or CEO really knows how to use technology.
Right.
And that to me, it was like, okay, well, why did I go from like an incredible beauty organization to a tech company? Is because I ultimately feel like the future of marketing is going to be led by people who know how to use technology.
Well, I always use the analogy of like when the computer came around, it didn't really replace a lot of jobs. It really just helped people do jobs. And then it just created new jobs. Like that's kind of how I see it. So I don't know. I love ChatGPT. I use it all the time. And so to think that right now we're still at a point where AI is getting more and more sophisticated is really interesting. Do you have any predictions or like you think the next thing of next year? I feel like this year and maybe the year before was like ChatGPT, being able to like literally type into it. Do you see any trends, especially around like social media with AI moving forward?
I think it's just going to get smarter.
Yeah.
I think the user is going to be more sophisticated in understanding how to use it. I think executives are going to have to become more curious in what questions to be asking, and what prompts to be, putting into the platform. And yeah, I just think it's going to get smarter and better.
So what would be your advice to like someone in the industry, in the marketing world, or even like C-suite level on how they can continue to stay ahead of the curve and stay up to date and know what questions to ask?
Yeah, I think, and I'm trying to do this with myself and my team, is like, what are the 10 use cases that will make your lives better? Like what takes the most time for your team? What is like the most manual thing that you can do? And so like, for example, I'll give a social example. I'll give like a practical one. It's like, so Zoom AI companion, right? Like now for important meetings, like we're always using Zoom AI companion. And then someone on my team discovered how to do the Zapier integration to then like push the meeting notes to Slack.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's awesome.
So like, no one has to take meeting notes anymore. It's in your Slack channel. It's like, that's a big unlock.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then the next is like, okay, how do you then like get all the next steps to Asana? Which is possible. It's definitely not impossible. So like that to me is like one really practical workflow that just makes your life so much better.
And there's probably a lot of C-suite level, senior level executives that aren't even aware of that you can do this. And even in your own meetings, it's like there could be situations where if you're a CMO, you might not have a junior level person there that's taking meeting notes, but you can like have a technology that takes the meeting notes for you. The funny thing, in my past life, I was in consulting, And so my job was essentially to take meeting notes on like client meetings and whatnot. And then once all this stuff started happening, I was like getting a little nervous, and I'd make the joke like, hey, let's just make sure I can still do other stuff too. I will still do the meeting notes. And they're like, I don't know, you might get replaced. So I took the proactive step to quit that and do this instead. Because
Smart move.
well, we were also, Gino showed me there's like an AI podcast now where they will like, you can put all the information in and it'll sound like, yeah, Gino's giving me this because we're gonna get replaced.
Oh, I've heard about it.
I'm personally worried about that.
I'm not. It doesn't actually sound like great.
I know they sound. No, they don't. I don't think they sound great.
I don't.
I think it's lame.
It's okay. I mean, yeah, I think the social AI use cases are actually really exciting. Like the example I gave of, the content predictions are really great.
Am I making it up that like the accuracy is
98%?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Increases engagement rate, views, comments, likes, etc. So I think that is, again, like the cornerstone of our platform. But in addition to that, we now have AI summaries, which can help summarize like how your performance was. So, Monday morning, so when you stuff like go in and, go into our platform and spend probably an hour or two being like, well, how did I actually do last week? And now like literally at the click of a button, it tells you.
So are you able to like, is there a number or a metric that you all point to? Or is it just being able to see kind of like the dashboard of it all?
So everyone's dashboard is custom to what they want to look at.
Okay, cool.
And so someone can type in a prompt like, how did I perform? How did my engagement rate perform last week versus the 52 weeks prior? And it'll give you a whole summary.
Oh, that's sweet.
Or, you can put in any sort of qualifier of what you want to look at. And I think it's been a game changer. It saves people at least 3 hours a week, at least.
Yeah, and it gets you to a decision faster in terms of what you want to do and what you should focus on. So you could use this as like a personal, like an influencer could use this even more so.
We have customers who are, I would say more than influencers, like Katie Couric Media is a customer of ours, right? So she's an incredible media empire. So Ariana Huffington. So I think yes, bigger influencers absolutely could use us.
Yeah. I remember at the Ad Week panel, there was some number that you showed, like United, their engagement or whatever that number was much higher than everyone else. I forget. Apologies.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but we could cut this out.
Yeah, we'll cut that part out. Our intern will take care of that. We don't have an intern, but but yeah, I mean, it is great because no shade to social media platforms as they are, but it is a little bit finicky trying to understand your own analytics. Like for LinkedIn, no offense, LinkedIn, but it's kind of not that easy to look around and be able to compare. Even like the comparison alone, I feel like is a value add because you can like set the dates, but then you'd have to reset the date to figure out what the difference is.
Yeah, it's surprisingly not easy on some platforms. We have seen with a lot of customers, even one customer I recently met with, they were paying an agency 4 times what they pay us. And they have seen their engagement rate increase by 70%.
Yeah, that's wild. And you're just providing, it's just a
software.
Yeah.
We have great customer success teams.
Of course.
They're all based in Canada. The nicest people you've literally
every customer success team should be based in Canada.
Yeah, literally the nicest people you've ever encountered. So I think that should be a law.
Yeah, you have to get something because that would make just the experience alone.
Yeah.
It is. I've had my fair share of battles with utilities and all that. That is like customer failure, they should call it. But that is great. But yeah, just the fact that they have unlocked these analytics, that's now driving what I was kind of saying earlier, like the decisions. You got to get to a decision faster and you get to a more effective decision, which clearly, and then you get to see the results.
Yeah.
Of the software itself. So that's amazing. So let's think about now in the future, where do you see Hudson moving with your role as CMO. And I feel like you went from customer to CMO, or were you directly brought in as a CMO?
I jumped in as the VP of product marketing, and then after about 3 months, I became the CMO.
Amazing. So that's kind of wild. You going from 3 months in there and then getting promoted to CMO. Was that part of the plan, or?
It was not initially part of the plan, but I think, the opportunity arose. And so we took it.
Love it. I love that. So back to my original question. Sorry, I got off track there. But where do you see Dash Hudson kind of going now in the future?
Yes. So, we've really, I'm really proud of how we've grown so much over the last couple of years. And I think we've really solidified ourselves as a player in the market. And as a part of that, we've always really anticipated our customers' needs. And the two needs that I think are most important is, one is like an easy to use platform. And so like on G2, which is like a ratings and reviews platform for software, which I highly recommend anyone looks at before buying software, we are rated number 1 with ease of use. And so the second thing, besides having an easy to use platform, is also understanding the customer ecosystem. And so we originally started as an Instagram only platform. Then obviously we expanded to all channels. And again, we're very good at providing creative analytics and predictive analytics to help people not just like post and like get the analytics and say goodbye, but it's like, how do you really look at this ecosystem? And as a part of this ecosystem is all of that creators, right? And so I think the future of the company really is, how do you look at creators owned and paid all in one space?
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. So I just had a question come up because I see like parallels between how fast beauty trends can change.
Very.
That feels like it's the fastest. I mean, I'm in like 2019 right now with my fashion and beauty itself.
I mean, I can tell.
Yeah. So we're cutting that out. And I think about AI and technology and how quickly that moves. Do you see any parallel with that in terms of your ability to kind of adjust, knowing that you came from an industry that was probably one of the fastest paced in terms of trends?
So absolutely. I mean, so one of our capabilities, and this is again why I value Dash Hudson so much as a customer, is because to your point, beauty moves fast. And trends happen overnight. So I remember when I was on the beauty side, and like red lip, like just one day was the new hot color. And all roads go back to Taylor Swift. Like Taylor Swift started wearing like red lip again, right?
The Red album.
Exactly,
I mean,
right?
on.
So I think you're on your heels. Like, how do you respond? Like, you're not always going to have an asset bank of red lip. So in our platform, you actually have the ability to pull in all UGC content, and then our AI overlays for your brand and tells you how UGC or influencer or creator content will perform for your brand.
Okay.
So how did we
okay.
So like in real time, you could like literally be like, okay, red lip is a trend. I now have 50 assets for red lip. I can just like pull together. And then the AI will tell you what you should post, and you immediately have a campaign.
That's wild.
Yeah. So like within
it
minutes.
moves. So it moves so fast. With how fast things move, you're able to match that speed
100%.
Because it's so crucial. Everyone's seen when a brand does like I don't know what brands do what, but like if someone changed their profile picture to like the brat green thing right now, I'd be like a little late to the game. It's not really that cool anymore. So being able to stay on top of it is so important, because now, I mean, TikTok, your For You page, your all that, like a new trend pops up every day. So being able to create a campaign around it that quickly, getting the assets itself, I feel like that's a game changer.
Yeah. And I think, this summer there were like 3 sort of mega trends, right? There was the guy in finance, which was great.
Gina's trying to be that guy, trying hard.
You guys need to grow a little bit. And then
I'm still growing. My sister told me she thinks I'm still growing. I said, I'm trying to get to the NBA.
6'4". There was, Brett Summer, which, everyone kind of capitalized. And, all these trends are happening. And it's like, okay, how do you actually engage in them in an authentic way?
Right.
It doesn't even make sense for you to engage in them. So I think it's like, yes, there's like, again, micro trends, which could be, a certain dance or as a, certain action, but it's how do you like capitalize on those big trends where it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's about knowing your brand, being authentic to yourself.
Totally.
Like some things, you don't have to jump on every trend. It's not like you don't have to do everything.
No.
Sometimes it's about the quality itself.
But you need to like know how to if you do jump in. Like I'll give the example of like the New York City Ferry. We work with them and they're one of my favorite accounts. Like they just somehow figure out how to make themselves up, and this is like a ferry company, like it's it's
right
not actually kind of niche, and they just make public transportation so fun, so cool, and they find a way to kind of engage in every trend in an authentic and interesting way.
Yeah, that I was gonna say, I do resonate with the New York City Ferry as being an enjoyable experience.
Totally.
Which any other public transportation, I feel like that's not the case. But the fact that they're able to do it, I also think the Empire State Building does a good job. I feel like they have a good social media presence. So, but that's pretty cool that that the New York City Ferry Company, they know that it's important to have analytics. Totally. And have the statistics and AI and technology behind their social media engagement, because like they I guess they kind of appeal to the broader mass of people, so it's like they have to be in those trends that your normal everyday person is looking at and a part of. So that's really funny. I think I need to follow them on Instagram and
X and all that. You do.
Okay. Now you just earned another follower. So congratulations. That's awesome. I would love to hear, to kind of wrap things up, if you had one piece of advice, and it could be for someone trying to, maybe they're interested in the marketing world. Maybe they're skew on the younger side. They're coming out of a pandemic. They're not like in person. How do you separate yourself? What advice would you give to someone that's kind of coming up through the ranks in the marketing world?
Yeah, I think being in person as much as you can be is hugely important. Mm-hmm. In my early days, I obviously was in the office 5 days a week. And I think it's not just the, being at a desk, it's learning how to engage with people around you, watching people in more senior positions. How do they act? What are they saying? How are they, a lot of people who are very good at their job or very senior roles at larger companies, what they're really good at is persuasion, mm-hmm. right? And that's a taught skill. Like it's not something you can't just like, you're not always born with. You can learn how to, right. You can learn how to be persuasive, and you can learn how to collaborate with others. You have to be an incredible collaborator too. And so I think watching and learning those soft skills is really impossible on Zoom.
Right.
And if you want to grow and you want to learn, I really feel like it's essential that you see that in person.
Totally.
And I think the advice I always give people who are coming up in marketing to it, I think this is one of the best pieces of advice I received from the former head of Estee Lauder, Thea Breen. And she always said, was if you don't know the answer, it's okay. Like, obviously you have to quickly find out what that answer is, mm-hmm. but, it goes to the point of like credibility, right? And it's like being credible is your greatest asset. You need to be the expert in exactly what you're doing. If you don't know your website traffic number, like literally off the cuff, okay, you should know it 3 seconds later and like find the right number. And then again, it also goes back to data too, right? Like, how do you know your data? And when reporting out, tell a authentic and truthful story.
Right. It's the credibility, it's being in person. And I think a lot of times you can build credibility a lot faster when you are in person.
For-
And you're put in these situations where you are kind of like tested of like, what's our web traffic? And it's like, versus getting like a Teams message, what's our web traffic? And then you can, you know, kind of pretend like you knew because you just pulled it up versus having in-person conversations. So I guess like if I was entering the market, I would almost be like seeking out job postings of in-person work.
Absolutely.
And like working in a remote position might not be the best for someone who's more junior, especially in like the marketing world.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see a lot fewer
purely remote
jobs.
Yeah.
I think we've already started to see that. I think Amazon kind of put the kibosh.
Yeah, they did.
Really. So I think others are following suit for sure. And I don't know if it's like great for people's mental health too.
Right.
Like, you know, I think it's, look, everyone has their own personal situation, and it, you know, if you have a real reason to need to work from home, you know, people will find their way and should absolutely do that. But if you have the opportunity to be in person, I think it will exponentially help your future opportunities.
I love it. Well, appreciate you being in person
Anytime
for this interview. Anything else? Any last thoughts? Are you excited about the Taylor Swift concert? I'm assuming yes.
Thrilled, super excited. I have not been so excited for something in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly, like, I think as we're heading into this election, like, I just think, you know, having such a positive, you know, king and queen of America with Taylor Swift, Travis Scott.
Totally.
Like, I think it's a nice feeling for the country.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it unifies people on any side of the aisle. I think we can all agree that Taylor Swift is incredible. So thank you again, Kate. Appreciate it. And see you. Oh, good question. Gino just had a guest question. If people want to reach out, get in touch.
Yeah.
Is there a method that you prefer?
Sure. So you can either reach out to me on LinkedIn, Kate Kenner Archibald, or if you want to learn more about Dash Hudson and don't want to talk to me, you can just request a demo or a free trial on our website at dashhudson.com.
And you can look forward to the customer success team.
I mean,
the Canadians. So
yes,
perfect.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Kate. Appreciate it.